Chapter 1. The enemy you carry. He had always believed fear lived outside him. In the dark woods, in the battlefield, in the expectations of other warriors. But as the years passed, he discovered a truth far heavier than any blade he could lift. Fear lived inside him, and it followed him wherever he went. His name was Riku, a young warrior in training, sharp in skill, disciplined in effort, but burdened by an invisible weight he could not explain. While others sparred with confidence, he hesitated. While others ran forward, he looked sideways, even in moments of stillness. His breath carried a trembling edge, as though he was waiting for something to go wrong. He hid it well. Fearful men do. He smiled enough, trained enough, endured enough, but his spirit was always tense, like a bowstring pulled too tight. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share, so I can keep bringing you great content. The elders admired his potential, but they all whispered the same thing. He has the strength of a warrior, but the mind of someone still chased by ghosts. Riku didn't disagree. Every night after training, when the torches dimmed and silence settled, he felt the battle inside him begin again. His chest tightened. His thoughts scattered like startled birds. He replayed every mistake, fearing he would be exposed as weak, unworthy, disappointing. It was meant to be a simple test, a sparring demonstration in front of the village. Riku had practiced the routine 100 times. He knew every step, every strike, every movement. But when he stepped into the ring, something happened. His teacher nodded for him to begin, but the moment he saw the crowd, his breath vanished. His vision pulsed. His palms grew cold. Fear rose like a sudden tide and swallowed him. He froze, not for a heartbeat, but for an eternity measured in humiliation. Children whispered. Warriors exchanged looks. Even his opponent lowered his blade, unsure of what he was seeing. Riku tried to move, to speak, to breathe, but the body that once obeyed him refused. He felt trapped inside himself, as though his mind had abandoned him and left him stranded in a useless shell. When it was over, he walked away without a word. Not angry, not sad, just empty. That night, he sat beside the river, face buried in his hands. He replayed the moment again and again, asking himself the same crushing question. Why am I afraid of what isn't even threatening me? No answer came. Only silence, a silence that felt heavier than fear itself. As the moon climbed higher, a memory surfaced. An old legend whispered among young warriors, high in the mountains, lives a mentor who teaches fearlessness. Not through steel, but through stillness. Some said he was a hermit. Others said he was a former general who abandoned war after losing his entire unit. Some claimed he could see through a man's spirit as easily as reading a scroll. Riku had always dismissed the stories, but now, he needed truth more than pride. Before dawn, he packed nothing but a cloak, a water flask, and the wooden training sword his father had carved for him as a boy. The village slept as he walked toward the mountains, but he didn't care. Shame was a powerful wind, and it pushed him forward. The path steepened quickly. Cold air bit at his skin. Branches scraped his arms. Every step felt heavier than the last, though not because of the climb. The mountain demanded strength, but fear demanded more. Riku wasn't just walking upward. He was dragging every unspoken insecurity with him. Hours passed. Forest thinned. Mist gathered around him like pale smoke. He stumbled at times, not from exhaustion, but from the thoughts swirling inside him. What if he rejects me? What if I can't change? What if I can't change? What if fear is just who I am? But each time doubt whispered, he forced one more step. The mountain didn't need to accept him. Change didn't need to guarantee itself. He only needed to keep moving, even if every footstep felt like a question he didn't yet know how to answer. At the first break of dawn, he reached a ridge overlooking the vast world below. The sun emerged slowly, painting the horizon with gold. Riku stood there, breath shaking, heart unsteady. He felt small in that moment, not in a humiliating way, but in a truthful way. The world was large. His life was young. His fears were ancient. And somewhere on this mountain was a man who knew how to tame them. Riku closed his eyes and whispered, I'm tired of running from myself. Then he took the step forward that would change the course of his life. A step not guided by confidence, but by necessity. A step that marked the beginning of his transformation. Unseen by him, far beyond the tree line, an old mentor opened his eyes, as if sensing the arrival of a new student. The path of fear had brought Riku here. The path of mastery was just beginning. Riku followed the narrow mountain trail until the trees grew older, taller, and strangely silent, as if they guarded something sacred. The air felt different here. He could feel it in his chest, a quiet pressure, like unseen eyes were measuring him. Then he saw it. A small wooden hut tucked between ancient cedars, smoke rising from a single chimney. No banners, no symbols, no sign of a warrior master. Just a simple place untouched by time. Riku hesitated. What if the legend was false? What if no mentor lived here anymore? Before he could take another step, a voice cut through the silence. "You are late." Riku's heart jolted. He spun around and found an old man standing behind him. Thin, unmoving, wrapped in worn monk robes. His hair was silver, tied loosely. His eyes sharp, unsettlingly calm. He looked as though he had been standing there long before Riku arrived. "How did you—" Riku began. The mentor raised a hand. "Your footsteps were loud. Your breathing even louder. Your thoughts the loudest." He stepped closer, studying Riku the way a surgeon examines an open wound. "You carry fear the way others carry weapons." Riku felt exposed, like the old man had looked straight through his skin and into the storms he tried to hide. "I came here to learn," Riku said, lowering his gaze. "I need to—" "Oh, you need to stop talking," the mentor interrupted. "A sit." Riku obeyed instinctively. The old man pointed to a flat stone near the hut. "A sit and do nothing." Riku nodded, though he didn't understand. He sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and waited. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Then far too many. In the stillness, Riku's mind immediately rebelled. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Is he testing me? Does he think I'm weak? His legs twitched, his back ached. His thoughts spiraled. The mentor watched every subtle flinch, every restless breath. After what felt like an hour, he finally spoke. "You lasted 12 minutes. Riku blinked. "Only 12. The mentor stepped closer. "You fear silence because silence forces you to face yourself. Warriors who cannot sit with themselves cannot fight anything." Riku lowered his head, embarrassed. The mentor placed a broom in his hands. "Now sweep." Riku stared at it. "Who came to train? This is training," the old man said. "A sweep." Riku clenched his jaw but obeyed. The gravel path was long, uneven, covered with fallen leaves and scattered debris. As he swept, the mentor silently followed him, studying every movement. Riku tried to sweep quickly, wanting to prove himself. The mentor tapped his staff on the ground, but too fast. Fear hurries. Riku slowed down. Then he swept too softly. The mentor tapped again. Too soft. Fear avoids. Riku tightened his grip and tried to find a balanced rhythm. His rhythm. But the pressure of being watched made him rush again. He felt frustration rising in his chest. He stopped sweeping. "Well, why is this important?" "I came to learn how to conquer fear, not do chores." The mentor looked him dead in the eyes. "You fear small tasks because small tasks reveal the truth." He walked away from him, voice calm but unyielding. "How you do simple things is how you face difficult things. I am not testing your body. I am studying your mind." Riku swallowed hard as the truth settled in. He wasn't afraid of sweeping. He was afraid of failing at anything. After the path was finally cleared, the mentor pointed to a cold mountain stream nearby. "Walk through it." Riku stared at the icy water. "It looks freezing." "It is," the mentor replied. "A fear begins where comfort ends." Riku stepped into the stream. The shock hit him instantly. His breath caught. His muscles tensed. Every instinct screamed to step out. "Stay," the mentor ordered. Riku clenched his teeth, pushing past the pain, until the water felt less like an enemy, and more like a mirror showing his limits. When he finally stepped out, shivering but steady, the mentor nodded. "Good. You listened to me instead of fear." They returned to the clearing, and for the first time, the mentor motioned for Riku to sit beside him. "You seek fearlessness," the old man said. "But that is not what I teach." Riku frowned. "Then, what do you teach?" The mentor placed his hand over Riku's chest. "I teach control. Fear is not the enemy. Your reaction to fear is." He leaned back, eyes fixed on the distant mountains. "You fear what you cannot control. To defeat fear, you must learn to control yourself first." Riku felt the words settle inside him like stones dropped into water, creating ripples he couldn't ignore. He bowed his head. "Then teach me." The mentor's eyes softened for the first time. "Then prepare yourself. Your mind will resist, your ego will fight. But if you stay, I will break the parts of you that fear controls most." Riku inhaled deeply. He had climbed a mountain to escape fear. Here he discovered he had brought fear with him. and the mentor saw every piece of it. Tomorrow, Riku's real training would begin. The next morning, Riku woke to the sound of wind moving through cedar branches, a slow, deep whisper that felt older than the mountain itself. The mentor stood outside, motionless, as if carved from the very stones beneath him. "Come," he said. Riku followed him uphill to a narrow ridge that overlooked miles of forest. The sky was pale gold with sunrise. It should have been beautiful, but Riku felt uneasy. Something in the air carried weight. The mentor turned to him. "Today you face the enemy behind every fear." Riku nodded, expecting some physical challenge. A test of strength, a test of courage. Instead, the mentor held up a polished wooden mirror. Old, worn, its surface slightly warped from years of use. Riku stared at it, confused. "What is this for?" The mentor placed it in his hands. Look. Riku saw his reflection. Tired eyes, tightened jaw, worry he thought he hid well. The mentor's voice was calm and cruel at the same time. "Tell me what you fear." Riku's throat tightened. He wanted to say something brave. He wanted to give a warrior's answer. Instead, he whispered, "I don't know." The mentor snatched the mirror away. "That is the first lie." He turned sharply, pointing down the ridge. "You fear judgment. You fear weakness. You fear not being enough. Every warrior who comes here carries the same disease, the ego that demands perfection." Riku frowned. "They don't think I'm—" The mentor cut him off. "Silence. Ego speaks before truth. That is why it must be exiled." They began walking down the ridge. The mentor stepped slow and deliberate. A fear thrives where ego lives. The ego wants comfort. It wants praise. It wants safety. It wants safety. So when fear arises, ego hides, and you obey. Riku listened, each word peeling away a layer he didn't realize he had been wearing. At the bottom of the ridge, the mentor stopped before a tall wooden gate. Inside, he said, "You will face your failures." Riku's chest tightened. "I already know my failures." "I know," the mentor said. "You avoid them." He pushed open the gate. Inside was a simple courtyard, empty except for a single wooden post planted in the center. Sunlight cut across it in a narrow beam. The mentor pointed to the post. "Strike it." Riku stepped forward, drew his practice blade, and swung. Riku hit the post again. The mentor remained unimpressed. "You strike with frustration. That is fear disguised as discipline." Riku tightened his grip. "No, I'm doing what you asked," the mentor shouted suddenly. The first time Riku had heard him raise his voice. "No! You are performing. You are trying to look strong instead of being strong. Fear lives in performance." Riku felt anger rise in his throat. Then, "What do you want from me? What am I supposed to do?" The mentor stepped close, so close Riku could feel his breath. A strike with nothing inside you. No pride. No ego. Riku exhaled shakily. "How do you empty yourself on command?" He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and tried again. The strike was softer, but it was real. The mentor nodded. That was the truth. He sat on a stone bench and motioned for Riku to join him. "Every warrior faces two battles," he said. "The battle outside and the battle inside. The outside enemy is easy. You can see him. But the inner enemy, your ego, hides behind excuses, self-pity, and unspoken fear." Riku lowered his gaze. "I never realized how much of my fear comes from wanting to be seen as strong." The mentor placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is the root of fear. The illusion that you must protect an image. But Stoics knew and samurai learned that a man becomes free when he stops defending who he pretends to be." The words cut deep because they were true. The mentor stood. "And now we remove the illusions." He led Riku to a shaded room. Simple walls, no decorations, no distractions. At the center sat a small cushion. "Sit here," the mentor said. "You will revisit every moment you avoided, every mistake you buried, every insecurity that shaped you." Riku swallowed hard. "Is this meditation?" No," the mentor replied. "Meditation is gentle. This is confrontation." Riku sat. The mentor closed the door, leaving him alone with the past he had run from for years. At first, Riku resisted. His mind scattered. Old memories surfaced, failures, rejections, humiliations, and he pushed them away. But the silence made escape impossible. He remembered freezing during a public test back in the village. He remembered the shame, the whispers, the looks. He remembered pretending he wasn't bothered. But he was. He remembered fearing he wasn't good enough to be called a warrior. And for the first time, instead of running from these memories, he allowed himself to feel them fully. Hours passed. When the mentor finally opened the door, Riku looked up with swollen eyes but steady breath. "We saw everything," Riku whispered. "All the things I pretend don't affect me." The mentor smiled, not with softness but with respect. "That is the exile of ego. When ego dissolves, fear loses its shield. And when fear loses its shield, you can finally face it." Riku stood, feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because something had broken. Heavier because now he had nothing left to hide behind. The mentor gestured toward the door. "Tomorrow, we begin strategy. Today, you have met the part of yourself that fear controlled most." Riku stepped outside, breathing the mountain air with a new kind of clarity. For the first time, he had felt fear rise. And he didn't flinch. Night fell like a curtain drawn by unseen hands. The mountain slept, but the boy did not. Riku sat alone in the courtyard of the monastery, the moon hanging above him like a silent witness. His breathing was uneven, his thoughts restless, his fear still alive under the surface. He had passed the trials of the day, but the storm inside him, that remained untouched. Master Daichi approached without a sound. The old warrior said, "You will learn the most dangerous technique in the ancient system." Riku's eyes widened. Dangerous? More dangerous than facing the cliff? Or the wooden blade? Daichi nodded once. Far more. Because this enemy lives inside you." The master sat opposite him. The lantern between them flickered in the wind as if uncertain whether it should stay lit or extinguish itself. "A fear," Daichi continued, "does not grow in noise, it grows in silence. But it can also die in silence. The difference is determined by the warrior's discipline." He slid a small stone into Riku's hand. "This is the stone of stillness. Tonight you will remain silent, unmoving. You will face every shadow your mind creates. You will not speak. You will not run. You will not distract yourself. You will observe." Riku swallowed hard. He had trained with wooden swords. He had climbed impossible trails. He had endured bruises and fatigue. But silence terrified him in a way no physical challenge ever had. "It's just sitting," Riku whispered. "It is never just sitting, boy. It is sitting with yourself. And most men run from that battlefield until the day they die." The master rose and stepped back. "The ritual begins now." The night deepened. Riku closed his eyes, holding the stone of stillness in his palm. At first there was calm, a breeze across his skin, the smell of pine, the soft rustle of bamboo, the peaceful hum of the night. Then the thoughts began. "You're not strong enough. You don't belong here. The others will surpass you. You will disappoint the master." The voices grew louder, stacking on each other like waves crashing inside his skull. He shifted uncomfortably. His knee hurt. His back ached. His mind screamed to move, but he didn't. He remembered Daichi's words. A warrior's spirit breaks not because of hardship, but because he believes every thought that crosses his mind. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. His breath became shaky. His chest tightened. His heart thumped against his ribs. A darker thought slithered through him. What if fear controls you forever? What if all of this training is worthless? What if you will always remain weak? He clenched the stone in his fist. "No," he whispered inside, though his lips didn't move. "I won't run." The moon climbed higher. Riku's thoughts shifted like seasons, from fear to anger to sadness to doubt. But every time a thought tried to dominate him, he observed it like a distant cloud drifting across a vast sky. He didn't fight the thought. He didn't argue with it. He didn't judge it. He simply watched, and slowly something changed. The fears lost their grip. The doubts grew quiet. The shadows dissolved. For the first time, Riku felt a space inside him, wide, open, steady, a space untouched by fear. Silence, instead of being terrifying, became powerful. He understood. Silence wasn't the absence of noise. It was the presence of awareness, a deeper seeing, a warrior seeing. Hours later, footsteps approached. Master Daichi stood before him again. Riku opened his eyes. The master observed the boy's expression. Calm, grounded, transformed. "You have walked into the cave of your mind," Daichi said softly, "and you did not flee." Riku looked at the stone in his hand. "It wasn't the silence that scared me," he said. "It was meeting the part of myself I've been avoiding." Daichi smiled, a rare, approving smile. That is why this ritual is power. Because most men are warriors outwardly, but cowards inwardly. They run from their own thoughts. They hide behind noise and movement. But a true warrior, he tapped his chest, faces himself before he faces the world. The master turned and looked at the horizon where dawn was beginning to glow. Every great warrior has a moment where silence breaks him or rebuilds him. Tonight, you chose the second path. Riku stood slowly. His legs trembled, but his spirit did not. "Hey, Master," he asked, "is this how fear dies?" Daichi shook his head. "Fear does not die, Riku. It transforms. It becomes strength. It becomes discipline. It becomes your compass. When you stop treating fear as an enemy, it becomes a teacher." He placed a hand on Riku's shoulder. "When you, boy, have taken your first steps toward mastery." Riku breathed deeply. The morning air felt cleaner, sharper, as if the world itself had shifted in color and weight. He wasn't fearless, but he was no longer controlled by fear. And as the first rays of sunlight touched the mountain, the warrior within him awakened, quiet, steady, unshakable. Now the real path could begin. The sun rose slowly over the eastern ridge, painting the monastery in a pale golden glow. Birds stirred, bamboo leaves rustled. The world awakened with gentle harmony. Riku did not. The ritual of silence had calmed something inside him, but it had also awakened something else. A deeper conflict. Something he didn't yet understand. His body felt lighter, but his mind heavier, as if preparing for a battle he couldn't name. Master Daichi summoned him to the training grounds. Today, the place felt different. The air thicker, the shadows sharper, the silence heavier. In the center of the courtyard stood a wooden post carved with ancient inscriptions, marks of warriors who had trained here centuries before. Daichi gestured toward it. "Today," he said, "you will face the most cunning enemy a warrior ever encounters." Riku waited, expecting another test of endurance or discipline. Daichi pointed a finger at the boy's chest. "Your ego?" Riku frowned. "My ego? I didn't understand." Daichi began circling him like a predator testing its prey. The ego is the voice that whispers, "I am superior." Then, when defeated, it whispers, "I am worthless." It swings between pride and self-hate, trapping the warrior in illusions. He stopped in front of Riku. "Your fear has weakened, but your ego has grown stronger. Now it tries to replace fear as your master." Riku looked down, confused, almost defensive. "But master, I haven't felt proud. I haven't felt superior." "No," Daichi replied. "Your ego takes a different form." He tapped Riku's forehead. "Yours grows through perfectionism, through self-pressure, through the need to prove your worth, through the fear of being seen as weak." Riku's breath trembled. He did not expect the master to strike so close to truth. Daichi lifted a small wooden bakken, a training sword. "Today you will duel someone you cannot defeat." Riku blinked. "Oh," Daichi handed him the sword. "Yourself." With a sudden movement, Daichi kicked the wooden post, and a massive round mirror leaned concealed behind it toppled forward, landing upright with a thud. Riku stared at his own reflection. Oh, card stuff, sweat, dust, fatigue, and an edge of doubt in his eyes. In this ancient system, Daichi said, there is a discipline known as Kagami no Shoujo, the mirror training. Riku waited, sword heavy in his hand. A look into the mirror, Daichi commanded. "Observe everything." Riku observed his posture. Riku observed his posture, his fears, his hesitation, his need to impress, his desire to not disappoint. Daichi spoke quietly. A warrior must cut down the illusions that bind him. Every lie he tells himself, every story he clings to. He stepped back. "You will strike at the reflection, not to destroy the glass, but to confront what it represents." Riku raised his bakken. "A strike," Daichi said. Riku swung, but stopped midair, inches from the mirror. He couldn't do it. The master's voice hardened. That hesitation, that is ego. It fears seeing itself shattered. Riku took a step back, uncertain. Daichi barked. Again, Riku exhaled and swung again, harder but still pulling back before contact. His muscles tensed, his throat tightened. Daichi sighed. "You see, fear was never your jailer, your ego is. It whispers, if you miss, you will look foolish. If you break the mirror, you have failed. If you strike too weak, Daichi will think you're weak." Riku's chest tightened. Those thoughts were real, painfully real. "To drop the sword," Daichi ordered. Riku obeyed. Riku obeyed. Now we begin the real training. Daichi guided him to kneel before the mirror. "Tell me," the master said. "What do you see?" Riku looked at his reflection. "A student," he said. "A boy learning to be strong." Daichi shook his head. "No. That is the story your ego prefers. Look deeper." Riku swallowed and tried again. "You see someone afraid of failing. A deeper. I see someone trying too hard." Riku's voice cracked. "Yeah, I see someone who doesn't believe he's enough." Daichi lowered himself beside the boy. "That," he whispered, "is the true enemy. That disbelief controls you more than fear ever has." Riku's eyes burned. He clenched his fist. "So how do I defeat it?" he asked. "How do I silence it?" Daichi stood and walked behind him. "You don't silence the ego," he said. "You expose it. You observe it. You strip away its illusions one by one until all that remains is presence." He placed a hand on Riku's shoulder, and presence is undefeatable. With a swift kick, Daichi knocked the mirror backward, shattering it into dozens of fragments that scattered across the courtyard like fallen stars. Riku gasped. Because the reflection was never the enemy. He pointed to the shards at Riku's feet. "The fragments are the truth. A warrior is not one perfect self. He is many broken parts learning to move as one." Riku stared at the fractured pieces, seeing dozens of versions of himself, each imperfect, each incomplete. Daichi spoke softly. "A warrior's strength comes not from perfection, but from integration." Riku breathed deeply, absorbing every word. Daichi stepped back, letting the silence settle between them. "And now," he said, "you understand why ego is the hardest enemy, because it wears your face." Riku closed his eyes. He felt something break, not his confidence, but the illusion of needing to appear strong. He felt lighter, clearer, more present. When he opened his eyes again, he felt no shame, no tension, only steady awareness. He bowed before the shattered pieces. And for the first time, he whispered, "I accept all of me." Daichi nodded. "That," he said, "is the beginning of mastery." And the boy rose, not perfect, not fearless, not complete, but finally, truly human, and therefore finally capable of becoming a warrior. Chinese Switzerland's Nei, Chai morning on the mountain arrived without ceremony. No drums, no chuns, no trance, no farewell rituals carved into stone. Just mist drifting across the cedar trees. And silence so complete it felt like the world was holding its breath. Riku stood at the edge of the training courtyard, the same place where he had once trembled with shame, confusion, and desperation. Now, a calm steadiness lived in his chest. Not loud, not triumphant, but deep and grounded like a river flowing beneath ice. "Then fail," he answered. "Fail with awareness, fail with presence, fail without running. That is what separates a warrior from a frightened boy." Riku held those words like a blade, not for fighting others, but for cutting through the illusions of his own mind. With a final bow, he turned and began descending the mountain. The path downward felt different from the climb up. On his first journey, every step had been heavy with self-judgment. Now, each step was deliberate, lighter, clearer. The wind didn't push against him anymore. It moved with him, around him, like an unseen ally. He passed the cold river where he had trained to stand barefoot on wet stones. He passed the grove where Daichi had tested his patience. He passed a clearing where he had held uncomfortable positions until his legs shook. These places had once felt like enemies. Now they felt like teachers. By the time Riku reached the base of the mountain, the morning sun had risen high, warming the dew-soaked grass. The distant rooftops of his village shimmered like tiny memories waiting to be reclaimed. He inhaled slowly, then walked forward. The reaction was immediate when he arrived. People whispered. Children stopped their games. Elders glanced at him with curiosity and a hint of recognition. The same villagers who once saw him freeze in fear now looked at him differently. Not because he appeared stronger, but because he carried himself with a quiet neutrality, free of frantic tension. He didn't puff his chest. He didn't hide his gaze. He simply walked, each step grounded and steady. Word spread quickly. Riku has returned. Did he pass the trials? Did the mountain change him? But he didn't seek their approval. Didn't shrink from their curiosity. Didn't try to prove anything. He had learned the greatest discipline, to remain himself regardless of what others think. He reached the training hall where his greatest humiliation had taken place months earlier. The courtyard was full. Warriors practicing, villagers watching. Among them stood Goro, the same senior student whose challenge had once triggered Riku's panic. When Goro saw him, his brows tightened. "You've returned," he said, gripping his practice staff. Riku bowed politely. "Yes, and then you should finish what you ran away from." Riku nodded once. Not as a challenge, not as submission, but as acceptance. A circle formed, whispers rose. The same pressure he had once feared surrounded him again, but now it felt distant, like faint wind at his back. Goro stepped forward, swinging his staff in a controlled arc. Riku observed the movement, not with tension, but with presence. When Goro lunged, Riku exhaled, grounding his breath. Fear whispered, "What if you fail again?" And for the first time, Riku answered the whisper. A failure is not death. His body moved with effortless clarity. Not fast, not aggressive, just precise. He deflected, stepped aside, redirected. Goro tightened his grip, suddenly unsettled. He attacked harder, faster. Riku remained calm. Not because the fight was easy, but because he no longer spiraled inside his head. His awareness expanded beyond fear's narrow tunnel. He saw Goro's shoulders tense before each swing. He felt the timing of every step. And he breathed through each surge of pressure. The crowd murmured. This was not the boy who once froze. This was someone else, someone anchored. When Goro charged for a final strike, Riku stepped forward instead of backward, tapping the senior staff offline and placing his own palm on Goro's chest, stopping him cold. A simple gesture, clear, controlled, undeniable. Goro froze. The courtyard fell silent. Riku stepped back and bowed, his breath steady. "This is not victory," he said softly. "This is clarity." The words struck deeper than any hit could. Goro lowered his gaze, humbled. The villagers stared, not at a triumphant warrior, but at a young man who had returned without the shadows that once chained him. As the sun dipped low, Riku stood at the edge of the village, looking toward the distant mountains where his transformation had begun. Fear still lived inside him. It always would, but now it spoke quietly. Like an old companion whose warnings he understood without obeying.